Hello growers, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about curing, the slow, patient process that turns decent homegrown bud into something that actually rivals what you'd find on a dispensary shelf. By the end of this video, you'll understand why curing works almost exactly like aging a bottle of wine, what jars and conditions you actually need, and how long you should realistically wait before judging your final product. I'm going to reveal two mistakes that quietly cap the potency and flavor of otherwise great harvests. One involves stopping the cure way too early, and the other involves a moisture mistake that can undo weeks of careful work in a single afternoon. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. This video is strictly for educational purposes. Cannabis laws vary by state and country, so please check your local regulations before growing, harvesting, or curing anything. Nothing here is legal advice. It's horticultural information intended for those of you growing legally. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting the bell so future videos land in your feed. And if this one helps you out, a like goes a long way toward helping other growers find it too. Let's get started. Winemakers have known for centuries that a freshly fermented wine and a properly aged one are almost different products entirely. Fresh wine can taste sharp, unbalanced, sometimes even harsh. Give it months or years in the right conditions, and complex flavors emerge that simply weren't there before. Curing cannabis follows a strikingly similar logic, and once you understand why, the whole process stops feeling like an arbitrary waiting game and starts feeling like basic chemistry. When your buds finish drying, they're not actually finished in any meaningful sense. They're stable, meaning they won't mold easily anymore, but they're chemically raw. Inside the plant material, enzymes, proteins that speed up chemical reactions, are still slowly working. One major job they're doing is breaking down chlorophyll, the compound responsible for that harsh grassy taste in undercured bud, along with starches and sugars left over from the plant's growth. As these enzymes work, they also help convert some of the plant's cannabinoid precursors into their more stable, more potent final forms. This is a gradual process, not something that happens overnight, which is exactly why rushing it shortchanges your final result. There's also a microbial angle worth understanding. A very small, controlled amount of beneficial microbial activity happens inside a sealed, humidity-regulated jar, similar in spirit to how a sealed barrel creates the right environment for wine's slower changes. This isn't fermentation in the dramatic sense. You're not making alcohol or anything like that, but it's a gentle, ongoing transformation of the plant material's chemistry. Get the humidity too high, and that same activity tips over into mold. Get it too low, and the process stalls out entirely, leaving your bud dry, brittle, and flavorless, like a wine bottle left open on a counter until it goes flat. That balance is really the whole game. This is genuinely debated in the growing community. Some experienced growers argue that curing beyond 4 to 6 weeks offers such tiny returns that it's not worth the storage space or patience. Others swear that 3, 6, even 12 months produces a noticeably smoother, more aromatic product. My honest take, the biggest jump in quality happens in that first month. And after that, you're chasing smaller and smaller improvements. If you're impatient, 4 weeks will get you a genuinely good product. If you're the type who enjoys the process as much as the result, longer curing rewards that patience. Use wide-mouth glass mason jars, never plastic. Plastic can impart a faint chemical taste over time and doesn't manage moisture as predictably as glass. Fill each jar about 75% full of dried bud, leaving roughly a quarter of the jar as empty airspace. Packing jars too tight prevents the slow air exchange the cure actually depends on. A bit like overstuffing a suitcase until nothing inside can shift or breathe. Store your jars somewhere dark, between 60°F and 70°F, since heat speeds up the process unevenly and light degrades cannabinoids over time. The common mistake here is grabbing whatever container is on hand, including plastic bags or containers that were previously used for food with strong odors. The fix is simple: a few dollars worth of proper wide-mouth glass jars from any hardware or grocery store, kept exclusively for curing. This is the step most beginners skip entirely, and it's the one that separates a good cure from an inconsistent one. Small two-way humidity control packets, widely available online, sit right inside the jar and passively hold the internal environment at a target level, most commonly 58% to 62% relative humidity. Think of them as a thermostat for moisture. They release humidity when it's too low and absorb it when it's too high, keeping things steady without you having to babysit every jar. Without one, you're relying purely on guesswork and the feel of the bud between your fingers, which is far less reliable than it sounds. The typical mistake is assuming dry, crumbly bud means you're done, and skipping humidity control altogether, when in reality, That bud may just be slightly undercured or overdried, and would benefit enormously from a steady target range. The fix is picking up a pack of these humidity control packets, 1 per jar, before you even start curing. For the first 2 weeks, open each jar once daily for 5 to 10 minutes. This releases built-up moisture from inside the buds and lets fresh oxygen in, similar to how you'd crack open a fermentation crock to let built-up gas escape, without letting the whole batch spoil. During this window, check for any sharp ammonia-like smell, which signals excess moisture and bacterial activity that needs addressing immediately. If you smell that, leave the jar open for a few hours longer than usual, and check again the next day. The common mistake is sealing jars tightly right after drying, and not opening them again for a week or more, trusting that sealed means safe. It doesn't. The fix is treating that first burping period as non-negotiable, opening every jar daily regardless of how busy your week gets. By week 3, your buds should feel noticeably more stable, and you can reduce burping to once every 2 or 3 days. This is the stage where flavor and smoothness improve the most, as chlorophyll breakdown continues and harshness fades. A useful way to track progress is keeping a small notebook, jotting down the date and a quick note on smell and texture each time you check a jar. Not because you need a science lab, but because memory is unreliable, and it's genuinely satisfying to look back and see how far a batch has come. The same way people track a sourdough starter's progress over weeks. The mistake at this stage is getting impatient and opening a jar you decided is probably done without a plan, sampling it, deciding it's fine, and stopping the cure prematurely for the whole batch. The fix is sticking to your burping schedule through the full 4 weeks minimum before making any final judgment. After the first month, if you're continuing to cure longer term, burping can drop to once every 1 to 2 weeks, and many growers stop entirely at this point, simply storing sealed jars in a cool, dark place like a closet or cabinet, away from direct sunlight and temperature swings. Ideal long-term storage sits around 60F to 65F, with humidity holding steady in that same 58 to 62% range, using fresh humidity packets swapped in every couple of months. The common mistake here is storing finished jars somewhere with fluctuating temperature, like near a window, a heating vent, or a garage that swings hot and cold with the seasons. This slowly degrades both flavor and potency over time, even in a sealed jar. The fix is picking one consistent spot, ideally a closet interior shelf, and leaving your cured jars there undisturbed except for your periodic checks. Let's collect the 3 mistakes that cost growers the most flavor and potency after all that work drying. Mistake number 1. Skipping humidity control packets and relying on guesswork. Cost. An inconsistent cure that can swing between mold risk and flavorless. Overdried bud within the same batch. Mistake number 2. Stopping the cure after just a few days, because the bud feels dry enough. Cost. Harsh grassy smoke, and noticeably less smooth flavor that a proper 4-week cure would have eliminated. Mistake number 3. Ignoring an ammonia smell during burping, instead of addressing it immediately. Cost. Bacterial buildup that can spoil an entire jar and, in bad cases, spread the problem to buds stored nearby. If I'm being honest, curing is the step most beginners rush, because it doesn't feel like doing anything. You're just opening and closing jars. But that quiet, boring routine is exactly what separates okay homegrown bud from the stuff people ask you where you bought it from. And there you have it. Curing cannabis really is a lot like aging wine, where patience and steady conditions turn a raw product into something genuinely refined. Get your humidity dialed in, stay consistent with burping for that first month, and you'll taste the difference for yourself. If this video helped you out, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with a fellow grower who keeps jarring their bud way too early. Drop your questions down in the comments below. Your question might just become next week's video. Stay curious and keep growing.